As Helen mentioned, I'm Jennifer Fleet. I'm the moderator and actually the first speaker here on the panel. And I'll be jumping up in between to introduce each speaker as we move through the seminar today. So we'll go ahead and get started. Sorry. Okay, so you are in the journal production, the basics and beyond session. Okay, everyone knows where they are. Excellent. As I mentioned, I'm Jennifer Fleet. I'm the Director of Publishing Services for Dartmouth Journal Services. And I see a few familiar faces in the crowd. I'm very happy to be here. I'm going to start off with the basics. So for those of you who are here for the beyond, feel free to check your email. A little bit about who I am and where I work. As I mentioned, I'm the Director of Publishing Services at Dartmouth Journal Services, which is part of the Sheridan Group. You often hear us referred to as DJS. I am new to the organization. I've been there a little over 6 months now. And I'm in charge of essentially the Publishing Services Department, which is the production department, and the Client Services Group. Before coming to DJS, I held positions at Aries Systems. They make a peer review and a production tracking system. I worked briefly for Taylor & Francis Informa, and then spent some time before that in the DC area in various production positions with PNAS, a journal published by the American Society of Plant Biologists, the American Diabetes Association, and the Society for Neuroscience. So a little bit about my company. Dartmouth Journal Services has about 145 employees, and we provide editorial and composition services, issue management, and online deliverables for STM journals. As I mentioned, we're part of the Sheridan Group, which includes the Sheridan Press, which is more of a short-run printer for journals and publications, Sheridan Books, which is a book printer, DJS, Dartmouth Journal Services, and Dartmouth Printing Company, which is a web printer for journals and publications. So what I'm going to do in my brief presentation is walk through a basic workflow. And these are some of the things I'm going to cover. So I'll walk through a basic workflow, then I'll move into a couple of variations or specific topics. And from there, I will hand it off to the other various speakers who will talk more specifically about different specific topics within journal production. So here's a very basic workflow. Paper is accepted, moves into some sort of manuscript preparation, then to copy editing, composition, a proofing stage, typically an author proofing stage. Corrections are made. It can go back through a proofing stage multiple times. Then the final files are approved and delivery to publication, either in print, online, or both. And now I'm going to walk through those individual steps and give a little bit more detail for those of you who are looking for that basic overview. So the first stage is moving a manuscript into production. Typically, those are fed by some sort of peer review system. So editorial manager, EJP, ScholarOne Manuscripts, Bench Press. Some folks are using maybe an in-house system or another system, or even just email and spreadsheets. And the files are packaged up with some data and sent to production after they're accepted. And typically what comes over, you'll get your manuscript file, which is often the Word doc. You'll get your figure files separately, table files if they're not embedded, supporting information or supplementary material, and then you'll get some sort of metadata file. And metadata is defined as data about data. Essentially, this is a file, usually in XML, that contains information like the manuscript number, the title, corresponding authors, all authors, submission date, acceptance date, those types of elements. And that all feeds the production tracking system that then moves the paper through the production cycle. So once the record is created in production, you take the manuscript and start preparing it for copy editing. And typically this is by running a program or a series of macros to clean up the manuscript. So this is an automated process of some kind. Often you're looking at simple word replacements, kind of global find and replace, spellings, abbreviations, units, things like that. It can also provide some tagging or identifying certain elements, parsing of the manuscript. So identifying which elements are the title, the author list, abstract, heading, references, and formatting them accordingly. And I can show you a couple of examples of that. We'll actually be following this one manuscript through my talk, so through the workflow. This is courtesy of PNAS, so I have to thank them for allowing me to use one of their manuscripts. So this is the Word doc as supplied by the author and accepted before any kind of tooling or programmatic cleanup. And this is what you get afterwards. So you can see elements of the file have been highlighted with various colors, identifying them as specific elements within the manuscript. You'll see some header information. You'll see that it's been reformatted. You'll also see comments off to the side, and those are really automated queries that are generated for the copy editor to double check certain aspects, if it's made any changes that need to be verified by a copy editor. Essentially, notes that need to be reviewed and validated by the copy editor are answered. From there, the file moves on to copy editing, and as we all know, copy editing is a very important step. As you can see, a simple comma can mean a lot to a phrase, for those of you who doubt the importance of copy editing. And basically, copy editing is reading and correcting a manuscript for grammatical accuracy. Typically, this wouldn't include technical or substantive editing of the actual content. And usually, the copy editing follows some sort of style guide. APA, AMA, Chicago, MLA, the Council of Science Editors has a style guide as well. These are all standards. But many journals have some sort of hybrid journal style, which starts out with the basis of one of these style guides and then incorporates some unique elements of their own style that they've evolved over the years. So once a copy editor has copy edited the Word doc, we're still in Word, essentially the file is converted to XML, and the XML is fed into the composition system or a template to compose the page. And just a basic definition, XML is a markup language, like HTML, that defines a set of rules and would adhere to a DTD, or a document type definition, which essentially tells you what is allowable and validates within the XML. Composition basically is the act of combining parts and elements to form a whole. So putting together those figure files, those table files, the Word doc, all of those things into one file now. And putting figures near the callouts, that sort of thing, wrapping the text. And pagination is, of course, dividing the content into discrete pages, following some sort of specific layout rules or a template. Once you have your composed page, you can output a PDF and it's ready for proofing. So typically at this stage it goes to an author as the author proof. And the author proof is a corrected, clean first proof sent to the author for checking. And typically this would be sent out via email as either an attachment to the email or in more cases if there's some sort of system behind it as a link where the author would receive the email and download the PDF through the link. The author would then review the PDF, answer queries, and annotate and return the PDF. That is the typical process. At that point, the corrections are actually reviewed internally, either by the journal staff or by a production vendor. And this is to make sure that any corrections or changes, I should say, that the author has requested follow journal style and don't deviate from any of the practices or reverse any of the copy edits that have been made. So the appropriate changes are therefore made to the proof itself, and a revised proof is created. And often this is for internal review, but in some workflows it will go back to the author for a second author proof. And here's just an example of that same manuscript as a typical author proof. You can see now it's a fully composed page, and I think of the composition stage as really the stage where a raw manuscript turns into an article. So now you can see it looks like an article, 2-column, that sort of thing, but it has line numbering down the side, and that's to facilitate queries that'll be produced by the copy editor and asking the author to answer. And this is typical, actually, this is the associated author query list that came with this manuscript. So just a series of questions asking the author to clarify different things or to confirm changes that have been made by the copy editor so that there are no inappropriate changes made to the actual content. So once the corrections are incorporated and the final proof is approved, you produce your final files. The print deliverable is typically a high-res 4-color PDF, 4-color being CMYK, which are the colors that run on a press. And this is essentially what you normally see with a high-res PDF that would go to print. And of course, we're also delivering the XML and the PDF and graphics for the final files for online delivery. And this is the HTML display of that same article. With, again, you'll see a link where you could also download the PDF, which is typically identical to the print PDF, other than having hyperlinks that you'd be able to access to various additional files. So that's the basic production workflow. I'm going to talk a little bit about how that basic workflow can branch off into a couple of other areas, a couple of other options. Publish out of print. A lot of publications are taking advantage of this. There are many different models for publish ahead of print. You can publish the raw PDF and post it immediately upon acceptance. So as soon as the manuscript is accepted, the Word doc is taken and PDF'd and posted online. Or you can even take the peer review PDF and post that directly online. Some folks wait until it's copy edited and composed, so a little cleaner version of the PDF or a fully revised PDF can go up, depending on how much time savings you're looking for, how early you want it up, and how comfortable you are with having a manuscript that's not as clean and as edited as it will be in the final stages. It's all about the comfort level and speed. You have to weigh those two sides of the equation. For articles, they need to be cited by some sort of unique identifier, such as a DOI, a digital object identifier, or a CID, which is a content identifier, so that they can be referenced in some way, absence of a volume, issue, pagination, those types of things. There's also article-based publishing, so this is also called continuous publication. A little different than publish out of print, because this is actually publishing online as they're ready. And this would be final files. So as opposed to a raw manuscript at accept or even a copy edited and composed page before you've created the final files, this is the final publication, but it's being posted as soon as it's ready, as soon as it's prepared, not waiting for an issue. So again, it's going to be posted without your volume and issue information. It needs to have some sort of unique ID again, because it's not going to have volume and issue information. Typically, the date of publication is considered the online publication date, so that's often the date of record when it is posted online. And if that's the case, most publishers do not allow corrections. And you'll occasionally get authors who see it posted online and feel like that's another proofround. So, but this is often, if it is posted online as the final publication as part of a article-based publishing process, it is published and considered published, no corrections. Later, downstream, you can produce an issue or simply collect the articles in various ways. So you can create article collections, you can create an issue afterwards with the content. Once it's published, you can do what you'd like with it, with or without the use of volume in an issue. And of course, simultaneous or in parallel with the online journal content delivery, so delivery to your online platform. You can also be delivering the content to various repositories such as PubMed, PubMed Central, Crossref, and of course these all require adhering to a specific DTD. Your content can be delivered to various indexers, so this is also part of what you're producing as your final files. And you may be delivering the content for display in a native mobile app. So as opposed to just delivering online and directing users to use some sort of mobile app optimized website, you could be delivering to a specific native app that would then post the content on the app itself. So these are just a few variations of the production cycle, a few different deliverables, and a few different variations to the basic workflow. So I've kind of gone through the basics. At this point, I'm going to pass it off to our first speaker, and we're going to get into more specifics within production.